Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at gcnlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
What a great day. Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Here we go. And I'll say correctly to USAPrepares.com. We're delighted to be with you today. In class, we broadcast 2 hours from high atop the Missouri Ozark Mountains. Kyle's engineering the broadcast at GCN. I'd like to thank all of our affiliates for carrying this broadcast. I really appreciate everything that they do for us. And if you'd like to call us, 866-582-9933. 866-582-9933. We'll pay for the call. If you'd like to take us as you travel, 605-477-3249. 605-477-3249. There's a link to your instructors on the website, USAPREPARES.com. And you can contact your instructor should you need advice and counsel and like to find out what offerings they have. With us today is Doc Ram, Dr. Richard Allen Miller. Welcome, Rick. Well,
No, it is.
Rick, are you there?
I love the laugh. I do. Good morning.
Hey, Rick, good morning. I had a great day yesterday. I'd love to tell you a story. It'll take probably most of this segment, but let me try this. I mentioned that the state of Missouri is very interested in the Finelli family, and they have been for months and months and months. And they have leveled paper attacks on us, demanding that we pay them about $100,000 in what they alleged was unpaid tax. Now, let me be very clear about this. We have their rule books. We use their rules as best we can. They write the rules. They print the rules. We go to the websites or get the printed materials, and we write in the margins. I even teach a class on how to do this when I travel. And so we pay our taxes. We fill out the forms, send them in, do all that kind of stuff. We go by our interpretation of what they want. And that's all we can do, because we don't hire people to prepare our taxes for us. We prepare our own. Now, I want to make sure I'm very clear on this. I am not saying that if they say we owe $1, we say, no, actually, it's like 13 cents. No, we don't do that. If we agree that we owe $1, we will send them $1. Not $1.01, not 99 cents, we will send them that $1. Okay. So we have been under siege. The Finelli family has been under siege by the state of Missouri demanding over $30,000 and over $60,000, total $100,000, in what they claimed was unpaid sales tax. Now, on the surface, it would seem that they would be right, because if the state's coming after you or you're being audited, the general inclination, if someone were to hear a story like this, is, well, the Finellis are doing something wrong. Obviously, there's merit there. I'm telling you, there is no merit. We have read the code, we've read the statutes, and there is no tax on the items that we sold. For example, if we sell a Berkey water filter or a ProPure water filter or an item on the internet and it goes out of state, outside of Missouri, where we are, there is no sales tax due. The state is not entitled, not entitled to any revenue from sales tax, none. And there are certain items that they are not entitled to sales tax regardless of whether it's in-state or out of state. And let me tell you what they are. They are numismatic coins and bullion. They claimed that we owed them $100,000 for unpaid sales tax. And they would send us these letters saying, send us the information as to your sales. Send us the information. And we would say, here's the statute. Here's what it says. There's no sales tax due. Sign it and send it back. And what would happen is we would get these letters saying that we had a 30-day time to respond. And we would get that letter at about 3 or 4 days before the 30 days was up. And here's what they did. This is what we're alleging. They have a Pitney Bowes stamping machine in their office at the state. And they have some clerk run this thing through the Pitney Bowes machine, and I think they put it in a stack, and it sits there for like 3 weeks. Then they put it in the mail, and by the time you get it, you're going to be late in responding. So what do the Finellis do? Well, we do what we always do. We send them a letter saying, and they say, you can call us. We say, thank you very much. No. All communication will be in writing and documented and will be sent registered. And all communication will be responded within not 30 days, 14 days. We tell them, no, let's get this done quickly to expedite it. So they're giving us 30 days, but they're not. They're giving us like a couple days because they mail it late. What we do is we mail it right away, and we say you've got 14 days to respond. Otherwise, this is a moot point, and you've got no claim. And that's what we say in the letter. It escalated and escalated and escalated. And then they wanted, then they're going to haul us before a panel of their choosing. And then they want copies of all emails for years. Really? All emails for years? Then they want all sales records. Who, what, when, where, why, and how for years. They're demanding this because it'll be easy on us if we do this. Naturally, you know my response. Can't do it. So they want these records, and we say, here's our response. You want the records on the internet sales? Go to eBay. You want the records on income tax? Go to the IRS. You want the state records? Go to the state. You have it all. It's all done. You already have it. Go get it. The only thing we didn't say was, you guys are fishing. That was coming up next. This is a fishing expedition. Well, I decided yesterday that after they wanted a mountain of paper, literally, it would have been piles several feet high. I decided that was unacceptable. So I called the head guy, and he is the general counsel for the state of Missouri. I called him up, and I got the person who answers the phone, and I said I need to talk to him. I named him by name. And I said, will he know what this is about? I said, absolutely. Will he know who you are? And I identified myself, and I spelled it F as in Foxtrot, Inelli. He got on the phone, and I told him I needed 10 minutes of his time. And it was very difficult because he had meetings. And that's what government people have. They have meetings after meetings after meetings after meetings after meetings. I know, I used to be a government guy. And not much happens in these meetings. So I explained to him that I needed 10 minutes of his time, and he couldn't do it. He couldn't do it yesterday. And I said, well, it works for me. 10 minutes of your time, and you will have the information you need. I will come there at the time of your choosing. It's going to be a 5-hour round trip, but I will be there. Maybe 6. It was like 6. And so he agreed that he would squeeze me in for 10 minutes. So Mrs. Finelli and I got to the government building, dimly lit, and we waited in the lobby, and Mrs. Finelli had some advice for me. And that advice was, and I can just see Rick smiling. She said, Vincent, be nice. So Rick, I said, why don't you wait in the lobby?
No witnesses. There you go.
And so we go. I was met by the general counsel, and I said, he brings me into this very large conference room. It was probably, I don't know, 35-seat conference room. And I had the choice of my seats, and I picked one closest to the door, and I left the door open. And there's microphones and recording equipment everywhere. And I said, I don't agree to any recording of any of this. Are you recording it? He said, no. He said, are you? And I said, no. I said, okay. So I proceeded to show him, Sun Tzu, the art of war is, surprise, surprise, surprise. Well, I don't necessarily agree with those tactics when you deal with the government. What I like to do is say, here's my plan, and here's how it's going to play out. This is not a threat. This is just how I see it going. And, if you want to go down this path, that's fine. I'm ready for it. I'm really ready for it. And we'll all be famous because if we're going to go down this path, it'll all be public information. Websites, everybody will be well known. All that stuff will happen. And I explained to him that the state has no claim on out-of-state internet sales. None. And I explained to him that the state has no claim on numismatic sales. None. And then we filed our taxes. They have all the information they're going to get. And if they want, they can come after us. But there's nothing to get because we have the statutes. We've read the code. It's not there. They can't do it. They're out of bounds and they're fishing. And you know what? Within 10 minutes, it was over. And he agreed. There is no claim. Not because I covered something up, but because there's no claim. There's nothing there. They cannot, if we sell a Pro Pure water filter, someone buys it on our website, they're not getting that information. Not from me. It's none of their business. It's out of state. And if someone were to buy one in state, we pay the sales tax on it. So it's all covered. It's all above board. But what I'm telling you, Rick, is this is a very slippery slope. And here's what's happening. These people, they hire these people to work at the state. And when I went there into this general counsel's office, there was one person behind the desk. And this person was making a personal phone call. And I had to wait while she was making her personal phone call on her cell phone. We're paying her good money to do whatever she does, and she was not working. So they have people who have nothing to do except pick on the little people like us. And we're not going to let it happen. So class, I hope there's a lesson in there. You can deal from strength. So class, there's a lesson here, and that is that you need to deal from a position of strength. What that means is you do your homework, you do your research, and then you ask questions. So what I was prepared next to do, should it have gone to that level, is I was going to demand to face the accusers. So if they have some minion or if they have some person who doesn't like us and says, you know what, go after the Finelli family, here's what you do, and they make up these stories about unpaid sales tax, which is absolutely bogus. I want the name, address, phone number, social security number, picture of all of our accusers. And I want names, the same information about these government employees, who they are, how much they make, and I want to build a dossier on that. And that will go public. So if they want to attack us, that's the kind of plan that I have. And it's kind of clear that, we just want to be left alone. But when they come out after my family, they actually get to see what Italian heritage is like. I'll tell you, I remember, Rick, I remember when I was very young. My dad was just about 6 feet tall, blonde, blue-eyed. He's Italian. He was Italian. And but I believe he had Viking in him when the Vikings invaded Italy. And so I believe he was a berserker in terms of lineage. Those are the guys who would run out and take the arrows. I mean, they're just tremendously strong athletes. So that's my dad. And my dad and I were in my car when I was a very, very young driver, and it broke down. So he was helping me fix my car, and we were under the hood, and we had some wrenches, and he had these wrenches in his back pocket that we're using, and this gang came up toward us. And we were outnumbered. And we weren't doing anything. We were just working on the darn car. And it seemed like they were interested in ruining our day. And my dad said to me, he said, Vinny, he pulled out two of the biggest wrenches he had in his pocket. And he said, take this wrench. He said, we're going to get hurt. This does not look good. He said, so what we're going to do, we can't fight them all, but we're going to kill that little guy. Now, my dad was not a violent man, but he was a first sergeant in World War II, and he went through that 90-day wonder training to be an officer. And what he meant was, we're really going to get beat up here. This is not good. But that one guy, we are going to concentrate all of our effort on him. Not that we wanted to kill him. Not that he really meant kill him literally. But what he really meant was that guy is going to be hurt more than anybody else, even more than us. Because we're going to go after him together. And I learned a lesson there. And so what happened was when our family was attacked by this paper mountain by the state of Missouri and threatened, what happens is that Italian heritage comes out, defense of the family. And I looked at Mrs. Finelli on the way to the state capitol yesterday, and I said, Mrs. Finelli, this is what happens. This is what happens when the head of a household is attacked. And, when the family is attacked and the head of the household responds. This is how it goes. That's the kind of thing. So I'm saying rally around your family, support your family, and deal from strength. That's what I think is important. Make sure you have your facts. Don't go off half-cocked. Make sure you're right. But make them prove what they allege. So they're asking for more and more and more and more information. And they didn't get it. What they got was, you already got it. Look through your records. Look through your records. You want to bring us before the panel? Go ahead. Go ahead. But it's not going to end well. And I'm not saying we're going to physically hurt them. We're going to use their system, their paperwork system, to document and bury them in their paperwork. And what we let them know was, you can keep trying. There's nothing to get, insinuating that, maybe there are other real bona fide situations that maybe they might collect some revenue, but it's not coming from us. And I literally had a penny in my pocket, a shiny new piece of junk, zinc, copper-clad penny in my shirt pocket. And I put it there. And at the last moment, if I had to, it was going to come out with the statement, putting it on the table, on the conference room table, that if it only takes this penny to resolve this situation and make it go away, if I just have to give you just this, you're not getting it. Rick and I'll be right back. Doc Graham's with us, listening very patiently. It's pretty rare that I get to hear Doc Graham not say much. Doc Graham, the Missouri Department of Revenue was created in 1945, and it serves as the central collection agency for all state revenue. Their primary duties are to collect taxes, title, and register motor vehicles and driver's licenses. That's what they do. So just one more minute story. So my wallet was stolen out of my truck years ago, and so I decided, well, geez, I don't have a license on my person. I better go get one. So I went to get a replacement license at the local license office, 20 miles away, and the gal says to me, I can't do it. Can't do it, Mr. Finelli. Your driver's license has been suspended. And I said, no, it can't be. I have the highest driving record in the state of Missouri. You cannot get a better driving record than I possess, meaning dings, dents, accidents, none of that. None of that. So I have a great driving record. I don't evade the police. I don't do all that stuff. Well, my driving permit, my license was suspended. And I wanted to find, why? She said, well, you have an unpaid ticket. I said, I don't have any unpaid tickets. I don't have any tickets. Well, here's what happened. Some jerk in the Missouri Department of Revenue transposed a couple figures on the keyboard and entered me as having as not paying a ticket. It wasn't me. It was somebody else. It was somebody else. So what did they do? They suspended my license. So I'm driving around with a suspended license. Now, if I got pulled over by one of the Blue Plague, I could have been arrested for driving with a suspended license, which is not true. It was some typographical error by some jerk in the Department of Revenue. I know I'm using strong language, but that's the problem. That's what happened in this case. Some jerk in the Department of Revenue decided that we should pay sales tax on something that is not taxable. And what they do, they go, well, I don't know. The Finellis are saying they don't pay. There's no tax. What is the answer? Is it taxable or not? We send them their own statutes, and they go, well, we don't know, so let's escalate this. Let's kick it up to the big guys, general counsel, and let's let them deal with it. So some jerk escalates this. So we have these low-paid people who are causing all kinds of problems. They need to be fired. And I hope I find out who they are so I can help them, go on vacation permanently, get out of our way, because they're causing problems for us. That's just two examples. I was in another state, Rick, and I got my license. I got a fine in the mail. And in this particular state, if you had a motorcycle license, the prefix on your tag was MC, motorcycle. If you had a vehicle, like a station wagon or a car, it was PC for pleasure commercial. So those were the first two letters of your license plate. And then it was followed by some numbers. So some guy parks his motorcycle on the sidewalk. His tag is the same as mine, except it says MC. Mine says PC, and I get fined. So it happens, it's happened multiple times to me. So you can get pulled over for something you're not even responsible for because some jerk in the motor vehicle department or division of revenue is careless.
Yeah, what I worry about is whatever happened to Mayberry.
You're absolute, and here's what Mrs. Finelli said when we were all done.
And the problem is that right now, everybody's hurting for money. It's going to get worse. And so people are looking in corners. They're looking around edges. They're looking at gray areas. They're looking for ways to increase the kitty, to fix the roads, or other things that were boondoggled. That when I say boondoggled, there's, unspecified funds that are used inappropriately for a number of things on local, regional, state, and federal levels. And nobody calls people on these things. And so this is one of the problems with larger bureaucracies. For example, at one time, the U.S. Forest Service, which is a division within the Department of Agriculture, was bigger than USDA. Now, how's that work? Logging comes to mind, and now there isn't anything to log. Right now, the Obama administration left the medical industry in shambles. And I'm going to say something about that I have HealthNet, and I had this trigeminal neuralgia problem that was so serious, my doctor was going to send me to Portland. And thank the Lord that I chose to, before going to on his advice, before I did that, I tried a chiropractor. And the chiropractor discovered that my body was 13 degrees out of alignment because of a broken neck that happened when I was 5 years old, and nobody knew that. And that chiropractor pushed me in two places, and my trigeminal nerve was fixed. But because of what Obama has done, my primary care physician, who's a Seventh-day Adventist, was going to put me on drugs. And when I say drugs, 2 days ago, I had a call from some guy that had been listening to me accurately over the years and had heard me mention ketamine and the ketamine studies that I did. And it turns out that in Portland, what they would have done with me before they closed the Reinhardt Institute was put me on intravenous ketamine. And that man now is 46 years old and has to live with his mother because he's so damaged because of that. When they put you under a knife, there's a 50% chance of fixing the ailment. This is what the Obama, it required my doctor to write a letter to Medicare approving this chiropractic thing with specific lettering stating all other possible things had been exhausted. And I am so grateful that I chose to not follow his advice like most of us would have, thinking that our doctor, who has to follow certain protocols that were not previously. And I talked to HealthNet about this, and the nurse that I talked to said it has increased everybody's insurance rates 300% because of what happened. Now, this little bureaucracy thing that we've got going on has proliferations down in all levels of our life. And I have had enough. You talked about maritime law, the idea of you're captain and commander of your own body and your own land, and you no longer have those rights. And they're watching you with drones. I shoot on sight. That's what I do. If I see a drone, I'll blast at it. I will absolutely, and it is my right because it's in my airspace. Just like, I don't know what's going on with North Korea. This is crazy. That little fop is, he's a fop, F-O-P, with his hairdo and his behavior. It's craziness. And why would Trump go for it? It's a little boy going after a little girl. That's the way I see the whole thing. And it's craziness. I'm appalled. I remember the movie when I was in Vietnam. What's war good for? Absolutely nothing. The only thing that benefits is cash flow, and that's why they want it, because everybody needs cash. And Gecko said it best: greed is good.
Yeah, that's what he says. Of course, we don't agree with that. You know,
no.
Rick.
But notice the encroachment.
That was a vulgar,
in the gray area.
That was a vulgar film, and he portrayed the vulgarity, the ego, the insatiable appetite for more and more and more of Wall Street, which is absolutely disgusting.
Is what it is, and the bully part of it is not where I like to go. I can tell you a story of what happened to me on the first day of my high school. I got kicked out of school. I'm an educated, I'm a smart kid. I was gifted, and I got kicked out of school the first day of high school because when I grew up in the Philippines, I was the wrong color in 1948, and I had to learn how to defend myself on the streets of the Philippines. I also learned how to play chess, by the way. There's several things that go on down there, but this bullying thing is something that's now happening in our high schools, and some schools are really bullish about it, and some are not. And that's what's happening now on a national level.
Mm-hmm. Rick, I'd like to dovetail on something that you just said a few minutes ago, and that is the search for funding. And our government is squandering money, and
well, it's not. It's little cells. It's like special interest groups within the government. Yeah.
Yeah, I know about them because I've seen them. I was a government contract bidder, and I got to see firsthand how it works. And I know how there are underhanded things that happen. I know that there are bid openings that are secret. I know, and it's all illegal. I know that. I've witnessed it. But here's something I'd like to share with our class. And here's what's going on right now in the state of Missouri. The Missouri government Division of Revenue is interested in all sources of revenue that they can find. They're turning up every rock. And one of the things that they're doing is and we know this because we've talked to people in this industry, and this is the precious metals industry. What they're doing is they're visiting these guys and saying, you've got a store, and we're here from the Division of Revenue, and we are interested in sales tax. And it looks like you guys aren't collecting sales tax. Well, there is no sales tax due on numismatics, and as I mentioned, no sales tax due on numismatics and bullion. But let's say a coin store sells some supplies, like tubes that a tube that might hold plastic tube cylinder with a screw top lid that you might put 20 silver dollars in, or 20 90% dimes or quarters or halves in, okay, or even pennies. That is not considered numismatic, so that would be taxable. So what happens is the state is saying, well, you owe a sales tax. Well, the coin dealers pay sales tax on that. They pay sales tax when they file, and it's all above board. But the state is insinuating, well, there's other things, and if you just send us $30,000, this will all go away. And they're killing the coin stores. They're killing it because it's too much hassle. Nobody wants to put up with it. I suggest you put up with it and fight them. Doc Bram's with us, and class, I just want to let you know that if you go to a gun show, if you go to a convention, where there are merchants that set up and pay for booths and floor space and tables and that kind of thing, you're going to find the government's there. They're going to have their minions looking for ways of getting revenue. They're going to look to see, did you buy a temporary or a permanent license to sell out of that little tiny space that you just bought for the weekend? They are going to look for all kinds of ways of extracting revenue from your wallet. They have their eyes on the same place you do. You have your eyes on your wallet. They have their eyes on your wallet. They want what you have. That's what these people do. So when you go to these government offices and they have these people that smile behind these desks, these are not your friends. These are not your friends. They want your property. They want your currency. They want your money. They want your assets. They want what you've worked all your life and your family's worked all its life for. And it's up to you to protect it from those thieves. That's your job. And this hour, I guess, has been spent dedicated to the fact that you do not have to turn it over to them. Read their rules. And if you do not do your own income taxes, if you do not read Publication 17 and prepare your own income taxes, you are at a loss. You're at a loss because you don't know the rules. I'm telling you, there are a lot of things that you can do. And if you haven't started your own business right now, you're paying too much in taxes. I don't care what the business is. You can start any kind of business that your heart desires. You can start it right now. You can say, I'm in business. And guess what? You're in business. And you can start generating income. You can start using those losses or those costs that you have spent to build your business against the profits of your business. That's the way Donald Trump does it. That's the way a lot of successful people do it. And if you look at who is successful in your life and who is not successful, chances are staggeringly high that you'll find that the people who are independent business people are better off than those who have jobs. Mark my words. Tell me I'm wrong. Call me right now and tell me I'm wrong. 866-582-9933. I'm not wrong. People who have started businesses are generally more successful. Why? Because they understand the tax rules. I've read it, and
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I've read the tax rules. I use the tax rules. I apply the tax rules, and I am ready to do battle with the IRS or the state of Missouri anytime. I'm ready. I'm ready because I've used the rules. I don't have to call a gun for hire and say, uh-oh, I'm being audited. If I get audited, I'm going to announce it on the air. I'm going to announce who, what, when, where, why, and how, just like I did. I told you the story about what they just did to us. I will announce it. I'll announce the players. I'm not ashamed to be audited. It's a badge of honor. Because if you are not audited, you're paying too much in taxes. You're throwing money away. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm pretty riled up.
Yeah.
Rick, I think I'm going to do a nonstop monologue.
No. You're on a roll, and it's cool because what you're saying is correct. And it's what I have problems with are the corruption within the bureaucracies, not the bureaucracies themselves as they are, like getting a building permit. However, getting a building permit requires a whole bunch of dance steps, some of which are completely unnecessary and there for a purpose. They have outthought you in terms of laws, so if they can't get you with the right hand, the left one will.
That's a really, really good point, Rick. When we moved to this neck of the woods in Missouri, we checked out to see if they had a building inspector. And you've been to our house. Now, Rick, can you imagine the average person building a house like we built? You've been here. You've been all over it without a building inspection. We built it without a building inspection. Class, this house took 220 tons of stone. That's without the mortar. That's just a pile of stone to put the skin on the outside of it. And it was we were banging and sawing and for 18 months just for the stone. And we built it without an inspection. There has been no inspection. I'm not letting those guys in the house. They're not coming in. We don't have an inspector, and that's because we selected this place. No inspections on our house, and they're not coming in. They're not looking. It's private property. Doc Ram and I'll be right back. I've got a bunch of questions, physics questions. DocRam.com. Everyone all set, cocked, locked? Hour number 2 of USAPrepares.com. We're delighted you're with us. Doc Ram is with us. Doc Ram, I went into the kitchen to get some herbal tea for hour number 2, and I was looking on the counter where the computer is, and there's our AT&T Universal credit card now processed by Citibank. It just reminded me of what a lousy company Citibank is. And by the way, class, USAPrepares.com has been deemed advertiser unfriendly according to YouTube, because the things that we talk about, like war and radiation and the violence that's throughout the world, and we let you know about the financial collapse and the things that Doc Ram's talking about. So we are considered advertiser unfriendly. So it's not just us. It's not just us. We're in great company. There are other broadcasts that are deemed advertiser unfriendly as well. But let me tell you about Citibank. So we mail off our payment for the Christmas period, and we don't like to use the AT&T Universal Card very much, but it says right on it, member since 1990. So this thing's been in around our family for 27 years. We always pay the bills off in full every month, but you know, during the Christmas rush, a couple days late in their processing, and they hit us with a $25 late fee. I call them up. They say, tough. You have a $25 late fee. I say, I'm going to pay the bill, but I'm not paying the late fee. Close the account. They say you had to put it in writing. So I said, no, I'm not putting it in writing. So they sent us a bill with another fee on it, and I put cancel. It's up to $81 now. So now that $25 late fee is $81. So, class, if you've got an AT&T Universal card from Citibank or a Citibank card, you might want to consider dumping your card. What do we need it for? We're not going to be beat up by these thugs. I despise their tactics. You know, they could be nice and they could say, you know, Mr. Finelli, we're so sorry. You know, you've been such a loyal customer. It'd be wonderful to would it be okay if we just waived that $25 fee? Would that be okay? Nope. Not Citibank. Not Citibank. These are those New York banking thugs that I can't stand. So that's the AT&T Universal card. Yeah,
this is the prime example of what happens as a bureaucracy gets beyond itself. And that's what's happening. We are no longer human beings. We are now becoming numbers. And, you know, that's the only way you're known, is with your Social Security number. Some people originally thought that was going to be the mark of the beast. Today, it'll probably be like out of Blade, where you have a barcode on the back of your neck. It's a tattoo. I can't go there anymore. My father, I've said this before, it's something that everybody should hear. He said there were three ways of being in this world. There was the vulgar, the adept, and the exempt. And he said the vulgar get audited, the adept gets money back from the government, and the exempt has a 501c3. They don't pay taxes. And so all through high school, I chose not to become, I was an athlete. I excelled in everything I did. That means I was not limited as a nerd. I could play baseball. I could play football. I could do anything I wanted. I was always number two. I was never number one in anything, but I could do everything. And I chose to remain a nerd, but I did not want to go through this bully stuff that all of us have to go through in high school. What happened to me was the first day of classes, I was in the shower room. I think it was fourth period or something like that, and we were naked, showering and putting on our, clothes again from athletic clothes. And the bully, who was 2 grades above me, came up and he said, this was my freshman year. He said, I hear you're a real kick-ass kid. Let's see what you got. And he hit me in the face. Now, you don't hit people in the face. You know, they used to punch each other or push each other, but he hit me. And I looked at him, and I knew I couldn't take him. He's twice my weight. And so what I did is he laughed at me, and was he walking out the back door, I picked up a baseball bat, and I broke his head open. Turned his back on me. Now, I got kicked out of school for 2 weeks. Later, when he got out of the hospital, he got me out in the parking lot. And he was that big that he could pick me up with one arm. And he lifted me up off the ground. He was about to do me. And I just looked at him and said, you better do a really good job or I'm going to get you again. And it put a respect and fear in him of not knowing what I was going to do next. He backed off. And I never had, after that one incident, never had to do bully again. And I lettered in school. I went to state broke a state record and didn't even place that year. They came in sixth, breaking a state record. Can't believe it. And what happened is that my friends that were nerds would come up and say, this bully he's challenging me, and I'm afraid of him. And I would go up to the bully and had such a reputation because I never had to prove myself. I just did it, becoming sovereign. And the same thing with athletics. I had access without having to participate with dating cheerleaders. I wanted to go to college. I was afraid I'd get someone pregnant. It was, back when I was that old, we didn't have condoms, or if they did, I didn't know about them. And I tell you, I was afraid I wouldn't be able to go to college, and so I kept everything in my pockets. And I tell you, I have discovered that the bullies are usually the most that are afraid. And governments are
Very
the same
interesting.
thing.
Very interesting that you say that, Rick, because back to our number one, the story that I was telling about my dad with me and this gang coming up to us, and we each had our wrench in our hand. What we did was they knew because of our signals that we are going to take that little guy. That little guy is going to go down.
Yeah,
if you want to do this, you want to do that, this little guy, that your little guy is going to die. And they decided that it wasn't worth it because they knew we weren't kidding. They knew that we were going to concentrate all our efforts on them, and they would absolutely lose one person. We would be hurt very badly, but they would lose one for sure. And they knew it, and they backed off. And we were outnumbered, outgunned, out everything. But we were determined.
Well, that's the deal. You can't let them. We can't let them say that you have any fear. It's about fear. It's always about fear. But you have to never let them see you sweat.
Yep. So, class, this broadcast is about preparedness on all levels. And literally, there are people who want to invade your space. There are police riding around in cars that have more ammunition, more guns, more tools, more ability to call their friends and their coworkers and pounce on you than you can imagine. But what we do is we try to avoid them, not evade them. We just try to not be in their space, and we do not allow them to usurp authority. We don't. We stand our ground, and we're not violent. But we're firm. We are absolutely firm, and we let them know. We let them know that if this escalates, it'll be bad. It'll be bad for everybody. Now, these are not threats. These are not saying that we're going to come to your house and do bad things. We're not saying that. We're just saying that we know the system, and we'll expose you, and you'll become well known for your acts of violence, and that's what has to happen. We have to use their tactics. We have to single them out. Now, when the state of Missouri,
the United States of America is possibly the biggest bully in world history.
Of course, what have we done to the Indians?
And all that we stand for, and discrimination and all the rest of it. Nevertheless, our reputation is ugly. Being the ugly American, I am embarrassed.
We are. Rick, this country started blaming the Native Americans, also known as Indians, for the Boston Tea Party. It had nothing to do with it. We blame them. We're a bunch of liars. At least some of us are. Not me, not you, but some people are, and I object to it. And I object to the piling on of the little people by the authorities. I object to it.
When I
it's
worked at the Pentagon, I noted, they say it's a military complex. However, it isn't the military that's the problem. It's the little subgroups within the military that have somehow a sort of get-out-of-jail card or no accountability. And they go to another level. It isn't NSA or CIA. It's within the CIA, like Herbert Hoover. I have to tell you, I've got stories. I watched what appeared to be gunfire between floors in the Pentagon. That missile that hit the Pentagon was to take out a bunch of file cabinets that would have busted a whole bunch of people. That's what it was all about. And they used it as an opportunity because of 9/11.
Rick, we got in the mail.
How come the media, by the way, doesn't report that?
Well, 89% of the media is biased against Trump. Okay?
How come
we know that.
Parents believe that the Pentagon was hit by an aircraft, not a missile. How does that work? The older generation is like they're not questioning like we might. Why?
That's what we do. We do question. We question everything.
But see, that's considered un-American also.
Not to me. That's considered the base of American. To question everything.
Value systems, and why some of us don't have any money, because that's not our primary reason for being here.
Hey, Vinny, listen. Hey, Vinny, here's what you do. You know what would be really good radio? Hey, Vinny, look, I'll tell you what. Let's talk about who's got the best hamburgers in Springfield, Missouri. Now, that's good radio. I was counseled with that. I've said it many times. I've been counseled with, let's talk about hamburgers. Really? Hamburgers? That's lousy radio. There's no reason for that kind of radio to exist in my world. But that's what they wanted me to do. And when I refused to stop talking about the corruption and giving out the phone numbers of the city manager for putting fluoride in the water and telling people to call him, tell him he's fired, they fired me. They fired me. That's okay. That's okay. I'm still here. I'm still here. And everybody else who was on the radio with me at that time, except for Norm Shealy, everyone else is gone. Everyone else. Okay, more to talk about when we come back. I'll tell you a little bit about these banking fees that I'm getting hit with. Doc Ram's with us. Rick, just one more story about banking. So I decided years ago to have a second account in another bank just in case, we needed it. Put a couple $100 in, not much money at all. And it's been sitting there, and then we get hit. We get hit with this non-active account fee. So our money's sitting there, they're using it, and they're hitting us with a fee. Now, how much is the fee? $5 a month. $5 a month. That's $60 a year. $60 a year because $200 is not active. I can't stand this bank. It's Mid-Missouri Bank. So first chance I get, I'm going to go to Mid-Missouri Bank. They demand ID. I'm going to close it. I'm going to close the account. Don't want to do business with them either. They could be a little more friendly. And they tell me it's really for my protection. It's my protection that they're charging me $5 a month. Really? I mean, that's the kind of nonsense that we're subjected to. Rick, here's something that's really bothering me. And that is these microfibers. So now we have clothing that's manufactured with these microfibers, and we put them in the washing machine. I mean, everybody washes his or her clothes in the washing machine at some level, and then out with the rinse water. It can go into the city sewer system or wherever it goes. Then you have these microfibers. They end up in the ocean, and then small animals eat these things. They look like food. They look like worms. Little blue worms, little pink worms, red worms, yellow worms, orange worms. They're all colors of the rainbow. They're synthetic. Rick, so then we eat the fish, we eat the fish, we eat the fish, we eat the fish. And then we have these pieces of microfibers in our bodies. I believe it's going to kill us. What do you think?
Well, what do you think about Fukushima? It's in the air. It's in the food. It's in everything. And at some point, one could suggest they're terraforming us right before our eyes. Instead of attacking us in a physical violence kind of thing, they simply encroach. And I'll call this new alien, what are you going to call him? Oh, yeah, black mold slime. And it probably came from Galactic Center. It has consciousness. Yes, it does. It is active, and it's now attacking anything that is made, like the buildings in Washington, D.C. Our national capital is being attacked by black mold. And there are forests where you can't even go into the forest because it's toxic to breathe. And so we have a responsibility for how our technologies are and are not affecting everything else. And this is the difference or distinction between vulgar, adept, and exempt again. It is a state of mind, a way of being. And you can use new technology to integrate in with old, more true proven things like making pemmican and eating fat from a different point of view, like they did in the early 1800s. There's ways of being that do not require going back to old ways, but advancing. But I'm watching how cell phones are affecting human relationships and how bureaucracies are making us into unhuman responses. And I desire a more neighborhood-like program. When I was a boy, I got to visit my grandparents in New York City, and it was like Cheers. There was a bar at the end of every corner in the neighborhood, and everybody knew everybody else's name, just like in Cheers. And I'm reminded of Frasier and those series that about Seattle and how Seattle has changed because of its size. Back when I was a boy, Seattle was a small town. It was not a big city. We used to say whatever happened in San Francisco happened 2 years later divided by 4, and San Francisco is no longer the leader, it's L.A. And I watched Julie is my girlfriend, and she'll say, this kind of nonsense in Grants Pass, this kind of nonsense wouldn't be tolerated in L.A. There would be due diligence. People would question and blah, blah, blah. And she's right. And so there are advantages and disadvantages to living in rural communities. Corruption.
You're right, but we're allowing these corporations to make products that are really, really dangerous to us. And
That's
synthetic
correct.
fibers looks like about 60% of clothing contains polyester with these synthetic fibers, and one clothing wash can release 700,000 fibers in a single wash. 700,000. Class, if you'd like to visit Richard Allen Miller's Facebook page and find fabulous articles that are worth your perusal and reading, docram.com, DOCRAM.com, Doc, RAM as in Richard Allen Miller.com. Rick, there's a link on your Facebook page, docram.com. Ancient bacteria from nearly 2 miles below the Earth's surface. That's about 10,000 feet. They found some multicellular animals. And it's believed that these are from the time of the dinosaurs. What do you think? What's this all about?
Well, we're finding things down in Antarctica, 50 miles below the surface of the Earth. 50 miles. New life forms. We've been here a long time. We're about to go through a change. It's an opportunity. It doesn't have to be bad or good. It's an opportunity. And we're all about to experience that shortly. And I don't know what's going to exactly how it's going to play. I can go back to history and what has and has not been written. I know that the Clovis culture in south of Mexico had spaceflight. It's been confirmed. And they crawled out of a cave. Now, is that a bad thing or a good thing? Well, in terms of what's going on in the world today, I think it's about time to clean the petri dish and start over again trying to get it right. This technology that we have today reminds me of our so-called trial by fire. And the kinds of bacteria and life forms that we're finding from previous epochs, dinosaurs on down. You know, they talk about dinosaurs, and then there's the reticulum. I don't know what that means. Is that a reptilian brain? Yeah. Instinct? Yeah. Mars? I don't know. It's got more water than Earth. Is that Atlantis? I don't know. I didn't write the history, and I have absolute proof that it is written by people with objectives, purpose, and motive to fudge. And because they fudge, I don't know. Just like the media, Facebook, Google. Did you know that Google has an AI now that has you so profiled from just the way you hit your keyboard and the way you type? can tell you what mood you're in and knows how to play that for marketing. How's that feel? That just
that feels pretty creepy, Rick.
Yeah,
of course, I don't like it.
By the way,
of course, I don't like it.
10-year-old technology where they can route just by the way you typed in that answering. Choose 1, choose 2, 3, 2, and 0. They can tell your mood and determine whether or not to continue playing with you, to push you further, or to immediately connect you with an operator. And they can tell that just by the way you hit the keys.
Let's talk about Facebook. Facebook. So I get on Facebook this morning,
Watch
just for the broadcast.
Watch how Facebook plays when you try to do a post, and they can tell what you're going to post before you post it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I do the same thing every day. Just for the broadcast, I will send out an announcement who's going to be on USA Prepares and what the intended topics that we're going to discuss are. And literally, that's what I do. That's the only thing I use it for. I don't say, hey, here's a picture of my dog, and here's a picture of, hey, look at this dandelion. Isn't that interesting? It's in the backyard. I don't do that. All I do is talk or send out who's going to be on, and there's several reasons. What happens is Ron Gibson in the Carolinas will go to the Facebook page, and he will use what I say we're going to be talking about as the topic for putting that audio on YouTube. Okay, that's what he does, and it's great. So there are purposes for it, but it's really just for that. That's all I use it for. I am not interested in using it as a look at me, look at me, look at me. Here's a selfie. I don't do any of that stuff. Well, anyway, Facebook, I got on this morning, and it said help protect your Facebook account in so many words. So by giving us your mobile phone number. I don't have a mobile phone number. And if I did, I wouldn't give it to them anyway. And how is that going to protect my account? So they just want more and more. Where'd you go to high school? Who are your friends? What was your first pet? They ask more and more and more questions so they can learn more and more and connect more and more of these dots. And I'm not giving it to them. And if I have to, if I am in a situation where I'm asked, what's the name of your first dog? Dog. What's the name of your first pet? Pet. What's the name of your first car? Car.
That's very good advice.
Mother's maiden name.
Generic.
Yeah. Now, it gets me in trouble sometimes because sometimes I need to go back and they'll say, what's the name of your first pet? Now, my first pet did have a name. It wasn't dog. And my first car was actually was a truck. And sometimes it gets me in trouble. But you know what? I'm willing to put up with that. I really am. I'm not giving these guys anything. And lots of times, I'm dyslexic.
Yeah. Have you noticed how Internet Explorer and Mozilla now have different kinds of new security things with your passwords and the way you store information?
I'm doing everything I can to avoid that. But
good luck.
I mentioned I'm dyslexic.
Good luck.
I'm really not
That's
sure.
The deal.
I'm not sure if I'm... Well, here's what I mean by that. Now, I used to have a lot of trouble reading. The words would jump around on the page, and they thought I would never get through elementary school, and they thought I'd never get through high school, and they thought I'd never get through college, and they thought I'd never get a job. And so here's what I do with my dyslexia. I use it to my advantage. So when I'm asked for a phone number on some kind of a form, I try to get it right, but sometimes I get the numbers wrong. Sometimes I reverse numbers, 1 or 2. And what happens is unfortunately, that doesn't turn out to be my phone number. And it's because of my dyslexia. So, class, you might want to develop a transient state of dyslexia. If you have to write down phone numbers or type in phone numbers to help identify who you are. You might want to pick one. I feel bad for the poor guy who has my dyslexic phone number. He probably doesn't have that phone. I'm going to have to call it and see if it's a viable phone number. But I don't think it is. And then, what about email addresses when they want your email address? I don't know. Why don't you pick some government agency? Bob at whitehouse.gov or something. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. Don't do that. That was just
I have a lot of paranoia now because of what and who I'm becoming. And I didn't choose this. I would have much preferred to have been put on payroll and gone, taken off the grid, stuck up on top of a mountain, being very quiet and farming a simple life. I truly, I have no desire for fame. I only want to sell a few books so I have a nominal income. And
Let's sell a few books. Let's sell a few books. Rick, what kind of deals do you have right now?
Well, I'm now putting in an international zone market, because when I put sales on my internet to, end run Amazon, it backfired on me because Europe and Asia started buying 10 books at a time. That's like $80. I have a woman right now, and she just said to me, here it is. This came in this morning. Well, hello, I'm writing you from Canada. I wanted to purchase a book. I don't want to pay the shipping more than the book, so I was wondering if you have power tools for the 21st century in ebook format. Yes, I do. I'm going to start doing ebooks for international, because everything ships from America, and what's happening next, and some of it is plausible deniability and being harassed. For example, I had a New Zealander get his order. The truck drove over his product. Now, who pays for that? Huh. Does New Zealand postage pay for that? No. Did the U.S. pay for that? No. Did he pay for that? Yeah, he bought the books. Did I have to pay for it? Yeah, I sent him a second order and lost my shirt, probably $100, just on that single order because a truck drove over it. Now, that's coincidental, and that's okay, except when I got 6 of them in 1 week. Now, coincidences and seeing patterns in things makes me realize that sometimes my paranoia is with good reason. Mm-hmm. And when you start to realize that there are local situations that are purposefully done, that's why magic had the spell of invisibility, low profile. And that's why I would be much happier sitting on top of a mountain and being left alone, because nobody knew me, didn't care. Just some hermit up there farming. That would be fine for me. I'm not interested in going out and changing the world. I'm too old. It'll be my grandchildren or their children that will maybe make a difference. Me, the only thing I can do is walk my talk, because that's how my daughter learned how to do what she does. And if I'm a pedophile or a criminal or a thief, that's where she learned how to do it. And so you have a responsibility for trying to be true. Now, the distinction on these AIs and this third generation of D-Wave technology that's now used in profiling, for gerrymandering votes, for stopping a crime before it happens, Minority Report comes to mind. The way you do that is that a computer does not feel pleasure when it beats you at chess. That's what makes you human, is the fact that you have emotional response, which is a higher order of information. That means EQ is even more important than IQ.
Hold that thought. We'll be right back. Doc Graham's with us, Dr. Richard Allen Miller. Rick, the hunt is on for new antibiotics, and it looks like we have run the course, or are running the course, and there are scientists are now searching for new drugs, and they're actually looking for bacteria that lived, in the 1600s during the plagues. What do you think about that? Do you think we're going to be successful at all? Have you
It's
done
all
any,
about marketing right now. The American dream and the whole concept of our lifestyle, one first has to be asleep. And that's the American dream concept. And the idea of going for this bacteria because it did that there is about marketing. Colloidal silver works. Listen, the American Indian had only 300 known diseases, and they had a cure for each one of them. We have gotten so complex in our distinguishing one thing from another. We've gotten so sophisticated, we now have diseases we do not yet have cures for. And how did the American Indian take care of it? Eat this root. It's a state of mind. And sovereignty has many faces, including a baseball bat. I will draw some lines in terms of what I think is good for America in terms of technology. I can tell you there was a change from the 70s into the 80s in just technology. In the 70s, it was okay to not know where you were going in your research. In the 80s, if it did not have application, like a goal, it was not funded. It was all about money. But not to worry, because that's all going to change very shortly. And
you're absolutely right.
Citibank is Exhibit A. And I'm telling you, the whole thing is nuts. That all of our world leaders are criminals, all of them, including
Rick.
Putin,
You mentioned
all of them are criminals. They're all criminals. However, I have to say that Putin has done more for Russia than any other Russian leader I can name.
Yeah, he doesn't play with a basketball or a golf ball.
What's that?
Yeah, he doesn't play with a basketball. He's got his eye on the game. He's an athlete.
Well,
Rick, you mentioned
he's a little different. He's KGB, and listen, it's KGB. So don't get yourself fooled that he's cool.
No, I understand, Rick.
With that said, it was Edgar Casey that said it will be the bear that saves America. Now, I don't know about Edgar Casey. I studied these kinds of people, for the military, and I can tell you I don't know. But when he went to the United Nations and stood before the assembly and he said, if you want to come to Russia and be a Russian, you speak Russian. I remember this nonsense when it used to be Esperanto, because there's Guatemalan, there's Portuguese, and all kinds of Mexico. And I have to say that this whole concept of Common Core and what they're doing to our children with cursive is abominable.
You're absolutely right, Rick. You mentioned colloidal silver. I just would be remiss if I. I don't carry silver for Bitcoin. I don't negotiations on money. I use it as a substitute for antibiotics, just like that's what brought me into this rant. Rick,
talk to you about it.
Tomorrow we've got two specials. Hour number 1, we're going to be talking with Emil de Toffel about the smart meters. And I'll mention something about that. Very important, especially if you're living in Poplar Bluff, where they're going to run you over with smart meters and the dangers of smart meters, the electromagnetic dangers. Hour number 2, Mario Cafaldi is an engineer, and we're going to talk about making colloidal silver and how to use it and the benefits of it. But Rick, I want to share something with you. Yesterday I saw an apartment building with meters on the side, electric meters, smart meters. It's an 8x8 matrix, 8 meters across, 8 meters high, 64 meters, right outside an apartment. So the guy who's got the meters closest to the apartment closest to the road had 64 meters blasting through their walls. Class, look at you. If you're living in an apartment, look outside and see where you live and where these meters are and how dangerous it may be to you. Rick, do you agree?
Well, I just see thank you for letting me. Yeah, there's technology, and then there's technology, and for what?
We're out of time.